Okay, good afternoon. She is a Refuah Shlema Yehuda Chaim and Esther Sora, and Refuah Shlema Gan for Sima Bat Rivka. Refuah Shlema. And it's La'ela Nishmas Yaakov HaKohen ben Gedalia Cohen, Avram Yosef ben Yaakov HaKohen, Tzidav ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Elimelech ben Levi Yitzchak, and Avram ben Mordechai David, and Reuven ben Shmuel, Shoshana bas Elchanan, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chaim ben Fega, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rochel bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zamalei ben Moshe, Chaim Eliyahu ben Yosef Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, Gedalia ben Tzvi Reuven, Leila Nishmatam. There's a crisis going on. The Israeli government, the Minister of Health quit. Yaakov Litzman quit because they're doing railway work on Shabbat. Right? No, he didn't come back. He quit. Vayetze Yaakov. When did he quit? The Pasha we read, Vayetze Yaakov. Yaakov went out. So Yaakov Litzman, David, you hear this? Yaakov Litzman went out, and the Pasha said, Vayetze Yaakov, so he quit. So the state of Israel versus Shabbat, or Shabbat versus the state of Israel. So how do you run a modern state? Can you shut down the state on Shabbos? Close the police station, close the fire department, shut down the electricity? It's Shabbos. How do you reconcile a modern state of Israel with Shabbos Kodesh, Avram? That's the question on the floor, okay? Good question, right? Yes. Now, if you look at the Rashi, you don't have it on your sheets. We're not up to the sheets yet. Now it's my turn still. Rashi in Parshas Shlach Lecha says that the mitzvah of Shabbos, it is Yisrael, Shkula keneged kol mitzvah shebetorah. The mitzvah of Shabbos equals in importance like all the other mitzvahs in the Torah. Now, how does Rashi know that, Shelley? How does Rashi know that? If you look in Nehemiah, chapter 9, Nehemiah, who was Nehemiah? Nehemiah was the prime minister to Darius. Who was Darius? The son of Esther. So Nehemiah is one of the books in the Bible called Nehemiah, the prime minister to Darius. And in his book, he was a prophet, together with Ezra. And in his book, he says, Ahar Sinai Yoradata. God, you descended on Mount Sinai. Vatiten la'amcha, you gave your people Torah and mitzvot. The Shabbos Kodshecha. What's the question? Nehemiah is saying, God, remember you descended on Har Sinai. You gave your people Israel Torah, mitzvot, and also, by the way, you gave the Jews what? Holy Shabbos. Avram, what's the question? Isn't Shabbos part of Torah and mitzvot? So why does Nehemiah and Ezra say, God, thank you for giving me Torah, thank you for giving me mitzvot, and thank you for giving me your Holy Shabbos? Isn't Holy Shabbos part of Torah and mitzvah? So Rashi says, don't you see that what, Avram, what? That Shabbos equals in weight like all Torah and mitzvahs. Otherwise, Nehemiah wouldn't put it in a separate category. Thanking God for Torah, mitzvah, and Shabbos. So that's how important Shabbos is. Yes?
He can still keep Shabbos, and maybe he's going to lose his parnasa now.
Oh wait, so let's talk.
Can you do that?
Well, let's talk. But there's something even greater than Shabbos. There's something greater than Shabbos. What's that, Sonia? Staying alive, right? There's something greater than Shabbos. The mitzvah, Pekuach Nefesh Docha Shabbos. So as great as Shabbos is, there's something greater, Yehuda. V'chai bohem. There's a pasuk in Achrei Mois Kedoshim, Avram, v'chai bohem. That Pekuach Nefesh Docha Kol Torah Kula. If your life is in danger, it pushes away the entire Torah, including Shabbos, except 3. The Shabbos is not one of the 3, right? And even Suffolk Bekuach Nefesh is Docha Shabbos. Even if it's a doubt, maybe keeping Shabbos, maybe it'll put my life in danger, but maybe it won't. Even on a maybe, Zisel, it also what? Pushes away Shabbos. So, I think you have it on your sheet, side number 1. Zisel, you have that? Transportation Minister Chaim Katz said, you see that in my handwriting? That's in English. Because rail repairs need shutdown of all the train systems, doing it on a weekday would see over 1,000 more trucks on the road. If you're going to stop everything, you have to stop the entire train system. If you're going to do it on a weekday, shut down the railway system, he says there'll be 1,000 more trucks on the road, which could lead to more what? Accidents. So doing repairs on Shabbos, he tying it is suffik b'kuach nefesh. Since there can be so many more cars on the road, if you shut down the trains on Wednesday, there'll be thousands of more trucks or cars on the road, which could cause Avram Chas v'Shalom more fatalities. So he says, by doing the work on Shabbos, you are perhaps saving lives. You hear this, David? And when it comes to B'kuach Nefesh, even suffik B'kuach Nefesh. What does suffik mean? Maybe it'll save a life, but maybe not. Even a maybe is what overrides what the Shabbos. Okay? So, but Litzman said, no, it won't cause more accidents. Transportation Minister Katz said it will. Health Minister Litzman says it won't cause more accidents. It's not suffik b'kuach nefesh, therefore you shouldn't what? Do the work on Shabbos. So we're going to go through the sources and see if Minister Katz is right or is Minister Yaakov Litzman right.
Yeah.
Who's right? You're also right.
They're both right.
Right? You know the story, Rivka, you know the story? This husband and wife came to this rabbi, they're quarreling back and forth. You know, so the rabbi says to the husband, you go first, right? So he says, my wife, she's no good, she's no good, she's no good. So the rabbi said, you're right. Then he told the wife, it's your turn. And she said, he's no good, he's no good, he's no good. And the rabbi said, you're right. So the Rebbe overhears this. She says, Rebbe, they just, you know, they're both at each other's throat. How can they both be right? So the Rebbe says to his Rebbe, you know, you're also right. Everybody's right. Okay. So let's look at source number one. Who's Heichel Yitzchak? Rabbi Yaakov. Who's Heichel Yitzchak? Chief Rabbi Herzog. Yaakov, what's his name? Isaac Herzog. His grandfather was the chief rabbi of Israel in the 1940s. Source number one, who wrote this in the late 40s, and he deals with what? With a related shaila. He deals with a related shaila. He deals with if you're allowed to call the police on Shabbos. If you see your neighbors quarreling, are you allowed to call the police? Right? So he deals with that. The source number one, he deals with that. I don't want to read the whole thing over here. In Maisa Pesha, like Yehuda says, you see a break-in. You see a break-in, are you allowed to call the police? Mechala Shabbos, you call the police on Shabbos. So he says it could be b'kuach nefesh because it could lead to retzach kani. It looks like a break-in, but again, if he finds no money, if the homeowner puts up a resistance, it could lead to murder. And therefore he says you should call police on Shabbos if you see a quarrel or a break-in. And he says in source number one, Komatzia Pesha, B'chol Mikveh, Kol Mariva. Now see it's a gimel there, Avram. Kol Mariva Kala. See that? There's a gimel, source number one. The first word in the line is Mikveh, 3 lines into the first source. See it's a gimel there? Kol Mariva Kala. You see people arguing, you know? So it looks like they're just arguing with words. It could lead to shvichas damim v'ariga mamish. You get hot under the collar. In Hebrew you say, Rivka, matchilim b'milim v'gomrim b'sakinim. Nechama, you heard that expression? Matchilim b'milim, it begins with words. V'chas v'sholem gomrim b'sakinim lo yaleinu. And it can end with what? With a knife fight. So therefore, Yitzchak Herzog, Zecher Tzadik Avracha, the chief rabbi, the grandfather of this Isaac Herzog, says, even though you see people quarreling verbally, you should call the police on Shabbos because it could lead to what? Shvichas Damin and a Riga Mamish and murder. And he says, Yom Shabbat, a lot of people have arguments. They're off from work and they like to argue, he says over here. You know? So therefore, he says, and he speaks about patrol cars on Shabbos. Whether a Jew can patrol, a policeman of Shabbos, he says, patrol cars and a police get there quickly can what? Moinat harba shvichas damim, can prevent many shedding of blood and retzach. And therefore, he says that the police should patrol what? on Shabbat. Okay? And then he goes on and he speaks about police cars on Shabbos, and he speaks about telephone. Telephone choshev ma'od l'shem et Gabriel HaPoshim. Right? If you get to the telephone quickly and you call the police, that can what? Prevent pesha. Or worse. Okay? And then he speaks about what? Kabbalah teviot etzbaot. You're allowed to fingerprint a person on Shabbos. Yiddish Yehuda. Kabbalah teviot etzbaot. I think it's on the side there. Fingerprints on Shabbos. Right?
The police department.
They fingerprint the suspected criminal. Can you fingerprint him on Shabbos? Miyad, he says, he says it's important to do that, to identify if this guy has a criminal record. And he says, so if the police get there quickly, and you call the police quickly, it can prevent what? Bloodshed and murder. And therefore, Rav Yitzchak Herzog Paskin, he's not dealing with the railway, he's dealing with what? With policemen patrolling on Shabbos, in police cars, and also dealing with what? Calling the police on Shabbos if you see your neighbors quarreling. And you don't see the knife yet. But if they're quarreling, then he says you call the police, because many arguments began with words, David, and end chas v'sholom with what? With knives. Remember West Side Story?
Yeah.
I'm dating myself.
Great.
First they ranked each other out, and then they get into a knife fight. And he says, Nebuch on Shabbos, David, when people are off and they're bored, they have a couple of beers, they begin to what? To jaw at each other, and it could lead out of hand, so you should call the police on Shabbos. Okay, now source number two. But the importance of Shabbos, before we get source number two, you heard of Achad Ha'am? You heard of him? A writer. He was not Haredi. Achad Ha'am. He was a secular Zionist, right? And he was not Haredi. And he wrote, more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, the Shabbat has kept the Jews. He was a secular Zionist. He wrote that. In the early 1900s, more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews. But you see, when there's Bekuach Nefesh or even Elisheva doubtful, what might lead to perhaps a dangerous situation, then the Shabbos is overridden. Now look at source number two. This was written, who's the Mincha Shloima? Yehuda. Shloima Zalman Auerbach, Zechet Tzadik Avraham. Shloima Zalman Auerbach. Look what he writes in source number two, Avram. You with me? We need him today. We need it. Well, he wrote this probably in the 50s. What? When did he write this? Shloima Zalman Mincha Shloima, I think in the 50s. Source number two. Lanias Daiti. You have it? Lanias Daiti, Inyan Tachten LeEzra Rishona Bir Gedola, a first aid station in a big city. Shiyodim Etolchan Nisoyon. We know from experience, and source number two, Shebechol Yom V'Yom, in every day Yeshna Mikroim, as the emergencies come up. But in Dachuf, what does Dachuf mean? Emergency Mutar. What's the next word? You don't have a source paper? Can you give the rabbi a source paper? Mutar L'Shapir. L'chalo Shabbat memlechas deraita. You hear that? You'd have more here if you need. You see that? Source number two. Mutar Shapir l'chalo Shabbat memlechas deraita. Kishi efshal yedei goy. Of course, it's better to have a goyish policeman or a goyish doctor, right? But if it's impossible to have a goy, then a Jew is permitted, perhaps obligated to be Chal Shabbos, even a Torah law. Kidei lios muchan. You have to do the l'chol tzara shaloi tovoi hagila lavo the kvayachriach Hasam Sofer. He quotes Hasam Sofer in Magefes cholera. There was a cholera epidemic in the Hasam Sofer. He lived in the 1830s. David Philip Shoshu Bari. Yiddish was a cholera epidemic, and he says even when people are healthy, they nachash shim sakana benafshay afilu hachi mutalecha b'yom HaKippurim. Yiddish. There was a cholera epidemic in Preshburg in the 1830s. Yiddish to Sonia, and they asked the Chassam Sofer, healthy people didn't have cholera yet, but there was a cholera epidemic in Preshburg. So the Chassam Sofer told the people, even the healthy people, on Yom Kippur, they have to what? Eat. B'shim chashash. What's chashash mean? Safek, depend, because if your resistance is low and you're weak from fasting, perhaps you're susceptible, chas v'sholom, to what? To cholera, even though you don't have it yet. So he says, you see, even a safek b'kuach nefesh, if it's doicha Yom Kippur, it's doicha Shabbos as well. The Hine Gamkan, he says over here too, he says Rincha Shloime Zalman Orbach, a first aid station or a police, even though it's not Bekuach Nefesh now, it can lead to Bekuach Nefesh, and therefore it's permitted to desecrate the Shabbat. You hear this? If you're a policeman or a doctor, a first aid station, first aid. Now he says in parentheses, Yehuda, you see that? Miu, but, what's the next word? Im efshal yidei nachrim, if it's possible to have goyish police or goyish doctors or goyish firemen, of course, Avram, it's better yidei nachrim. Poshatu shein lasos on Yisrael. Then certainly you shouldn't have a Jew do it if you can do it through a goy. Aval sofik gadol, what does that mean? It's a big doubt in my eyes. Im nochal lahakmi al shoym etor beglal zeh. So you should try do it through what? Through a goy. If you don't have a goy, then use a Jew that doesn't keep Shabbos anyway, if you can. That's what he says over here. Look. So here, if you can't find a goy to do the police or the firework or the first aid, he said you should find a goy. If you're not able to find a goy, do it what? Through a Jew. But what kind of Jew should you use? He says use a Jew that doesn't what? That doesn't keep Shabbos anyway. But Moshe says clearly that you should use what? A from Jew. Moshe finds it's clear. Why? So Moshe says, because a from Jew will know which malacha to break and which not to break.
There you go.
A from Jew knows what you have to do and not what you have to do. He knows how to do a bishinoi, if you have to do bishinoi, but not the Hatzalah people. I had a friend of mine who worked for Hatzalah, and he was told, the psak from Moshe is, if you have to dial an emergency, should you do it through a shinoi, the telephone on Shabbos? So you dial with a shinoi, or do it with a pencil? So Moshe said clearly, if it's suffer b'kuach nefesh, you don't do a shinoi. You dial the telephone normally. You don't do it the fastest way. Because you look for a shinoi, you're fumbling around, you want to do it with your left hand, with your elbow. Its precious moments are being lost. So you don't do no tricks, or Moshe Paskin, and he says you do dafka from Jew. You do dafka from Jew, because a from Jew will know what's allowed and what's not allowed. But let me go on here. Right, look at source number 3. Shlomo Zalman continues. You see that? Source number 3, Shirley. You have that? Nilas daiti de be'ir gedola. In a big city, source number 3, there's a large population. V'yodem borur b'toichan esoyon, and we know from experience she'im hamishtara hanayadat. What does that mean? Police patrol, police cars, police vans, b'Shabbos, yesh lachshush tuva litgoredami. It's going to what? It's going to prevent what? Bloodshed, right? If they see police patrolling, right? And he says in parentheses here, so you see people fighting, even if they're not going to wound them fatally, but Ledina and Orion is anytime you see people fighting, hitting each other, it can lead to a situation of what? Sikonas nafoshes. Or oiginevos v'gzelos, even if it's just plain burglary, Avram. Take a look, you see a burglar on Shabbos? It can lead to what? So if you see a guy breaking on Shabbos, even though you don't see a weapon, what do? You call the police.
Without a shinoi, right?
Without a shinoi. You don't fumble. Without a shinoi. Yesh mokum ladun de efshesh ha-mishtara ha-niyadot havalei krefu yadu al-hatzot neirofim. Because police cars are like doctors. They what? Emergency, they can prevent a rotfim, mazikim, a rotfim that we find in the city, predators, and when they see a patrol car, they back off, right? And he says all robbers, the end of source number 3, Avram. You see the end of source number 3? He says that all listim, b'chashud ashvichas damim, v'regusa b'choleis mitzvahi, v'hatzolois nefoshois, the end of source number 3, kivin sherogol b'kach, afal pi shein oisa klum b'oisa shah, even though the robber is not killing anybody, but you see a robbery in progress or people quarreling, Shlomo Zalman rules that you should what? You should call the police. So to protect security, it's mutter on Shabbos to do what? For police to drive police cars. Remember that? Car 54, where are you? I'm in shul, I can't come now. There's a hold-up in the Bronx. Should I sing it? There's a hold-up in the Bronx. Brooklyn's broken out in fights. Right? Khrushchev's do it Idlewild. Car 54, where are you? That was my favorite show. I'm dating myself now. So you can call car 54 on Shabbos. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, even if people... What?
The tall guy just died.
Fred Gwynn.
Oh.
Tootie, no, Gunther, Tootie, Muldoon, I think. Car 54, where are you? So, Aaron, what do you see over here? So look how lenient Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is, how lenient he is, in that you should call the police and have patrol cars. Of course, you should try, if a goy can do it, but if you can't find a goy, then a Jew should do it, because it's what? It's the mitzvah b'kuach nefesh. And the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos says something incredible. And I don't know why Shlomo Zalman is mesufik here, Rabbi Yaakov. You look in the Rambam Hilchos Shabbos, he says that you have to be Mechal Shabbos to save a life. You don't look for a goy, and you don't look for a katan. Who does it? Gedoyle Yisrael, he says. Gedoyle Yisrael. What does that mean? The Rambam looks at Gedoyle Yisrael. You don't look for a non-Jew. And you don't look for a katan. You look for the greatest in Israel. Because there's a bigger mitzvah than keeping Shabbos, David. What's that? Saving a life. Saving a life. There's a mitzvah than breaking Shabbos. Than keeping Shabbos. Saving a life. So I don't know if Shlomo Zalman is mesupak, because when Moshe brings this Rambam, when you mechal Shabbos for b'kuach nefesh, something kuach nefesh, you don't look for a katan. He says you don't look for a goy. You look for Gedoyle Yisrael. Connie, what does Gedoyle Yisrael mean? A great man in Israel. Because it's a privilege. You're doing a mitzvah. You're saving a life. That's a greater mitzvah. To save a human life is a greater mitzvah, surely, than what? Than keeping Shabbos. So I don't know why Shlomo Zalman, Yaakov says, Musafik Godo. You hear my question? Rav Moshe quotes the Rambam clearly that you don't do it with a...
The way they express it, they're not lenient on Hilchos Shabbos. They're stringent on Pekuach Nefesh.
Right. A friend of mine who worked for Atzala in Brooklyn, he says they dafke want from drivers, not even non-Jewish, because a non-Jewish driver, he'll be lackadaisical. What does he care? He'll drive. A Jewish driver who knows the value of life, he's going to speed. He'll get the patient there quickly. It's a precious moment of being lost. So he was told, Dafka, that a frum driver should drive the ambulance on Shabbos. Because if he's not frum, he doesn't know the laws, and if he's not even Jewish, maybe he won't be so much ibegegeben. How do you say that? He won't care, he won't invest it so much. So he'll take his time, and meanwhile the patient might die. So he told me, my friend, the solar driver, Moshe Paskin, that you take a frum Jew who knows the value of a human life, and he won't, be lackadaisical about it. He'll speed and go through the rites. So dafkid should be done by what? By a Jewish person who knows the value of what? Of human life. Now, what about coming back with the ambulance? So anyway, what happened to him? So once he drove, he was called an emergency. An old Jew fainted on Shabbos in shul. They thought he had a heart attack. So when he got there with the ambulance, the guy, he was fine. He just fainted. They gave him spelling, told he was fine. So he felt bad. He was Mechala Shabbos, So he went to Rav Moshe. He wants a tikkun. Says Rav Moshe, you don't need a tikkun. If you would have gotten there and the guy was dead, would you feel better? Thank God when you got there, he was alive and well, and your schus. You didn't break the Shabbos. In God's eyes, you rescued him. Machshava tova, kishbochim tzav lamaisa. What does that mean, Dr. Abramson? If you want to do a mitzvah, in God's eyes, it's like what? It's done. So when you got there, and the old man was well, you feel better if he was dead? Baruch Hashem, he's well. You did the mitzvah in Hashem's eyes. Machshava tova, Yehuda. Hashem counts it as what? As a done deed. You don't need no tikkun. Now what about driving the ambulance back home? That's the $64 question. The Rambam talks about it. What about...
driving the ambulance? That's pretty
No, not driving the ambulance, but you don't have it on your sheets. Is the driver allowed to Nechama drive back after the emergency? What? That's one explanation, but otherwise you need the ambulance back in headquarters for another call.
Plus he's on call all day.
Okay, but Rav Moshe brings the Rambam. You don't have it. The Hilchos Shabbos, chapter 2, law 23. I'll read it to you. You don't have it on your paper, but write down the source. Rav Moshe quotes the Rambam, Hilchos Shabbos, Perik Bet, Halacha Chav Gimel. I'll read it in Hebrew, I'll translate. You don't have it, but mitzvah al kol Yisrael, listen he says, the Rambam said there's a mitzvah on every Jewish person, sheyecholim, that he's able. If he's not a doctor, if he's not a fireman, then why go on the call? The mitzvah on every Jewish person, sheyecholim, what sheyecholim mean? He's capable and able, lotzet v'lazor lachayem, to go and help a Jewish brother, v'latzilam mehagoyim b'Shabbos. A Jew has been taken prisoner, and you are trained in counterterrorism, you're a combat soldier, so it's a mitzvah for every Jewish person that's able to go and help a fellow Jewish brother, save him from an emergency on Shabbos. V'osel mameya. It is forbidden to hesitate, to delay L'motzei Shabbat. Oh, I'll wait till after Avdullah. I'll keep Rabbeinu Tam's man. I'll make Avdullah, then I'll go save him. It's forbidden to wait one mitzvah. Permitted to wait 1 minute. Oselit mameya. You can't wait till L'motzei Shabbos. There's an emergency and you can help. You have to run on Shabbos with the vehicle or with whatever to save. Now once you did the Hatzalah, Mutter Lachzor. Ooh, Connie. Chapter 2, Law 23, Shabbos, says the Rambam, and Rav Moshe quotes this, Mutter Lachzor B'Kli Zayin. So he went with his M16 and he drove his Jeep to do Hatzalah. Hatzalah is done. Mutter Lachzor, Yehuda. The Rambam says you're allowed to come back, B'Kli Zayin, with your weapons. Even though it's outside Chum Shabbos, you're allowed to come back, L'mkoma B'Shabbos. Why? Nechama?
We need it again.
He doesn't say that. He says, Kidei Shaloi Lahachshilon Lasid Lavoi.
That they won't want to go back.
Beautiful. If you don't let him come back, he'll never go on Hatzalah call again. You're going to be stuck in the hospital all Shabbos, and his family's waiting for him. He won't go on another call, Shelley. So therefore, says Rambam, he's allowed to be Mechala Shabbos, drive back, there's no emergency. Rabbi Yaakov Kedei Shaloi Lachshilon. How do you say that in English? There shouldn't be a Michshol Lasid Lavoi. Next time, if you're going to keep him in the hospital stuck, and he'll miss his children and Google and his family sitting in the hospital, he won't go on the emergency call, David, next time. So you're putting people in potential danger next time. And that's good enough to what, David? The Mechala Shabbos when there's no emergency. Arya, you hearing this Rambam? You hearing this Rambam? It's just incredible.
What if it's a relative of the person?
What difference does it make if a relative or not? Every Jew is a relative.
Every Jew is a relative.
Right? Every Jew is a relative. Achayim Yisrael, right? And Rav Moshe Paskin that Bisman Hazeh, even a non-Jew you have to be Mechal Shabbos. Rav Moshe Paskin, even a non-Jew, otherwise it can lead to Eva. How do you say that in English? Hatred, pogroms. So Rav Moshe Paskin that even a non-Jew would have to be Mechal Shabbos, and Hatzalah is told not to ask a person, are you Jewish? Like the Chabad, are you Jewish? You save everybody. All human life is precious and valuable. Every person has a godly image. But the amazing part, Nechama says that they're allowed to come back, no emergency, because if not, next time they won't want to go on the call. So look how far you can be Mechal Shabbos. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Now,
They don't do that. So what about?
what do you mean they don't do that? They do that. Rav Moshe Paskin, they do that.
So what
They
about
do that, yes. Otherwise they won't go on call again.
What about this health minister?
They don't have to do that.
It's mutter lachzor, mutter. They want to stay in the hospital all
They
day,
want to wait.
and they'll, they don't miss the cholent and the kugel and the family, but they're permitted to go back. Kidei shloi lachshilon, Yehuda, la'asid lavai, it shouldn't be a michshel. What does a michshel mean? A stumbling block. Next time, they say, forget about it, I'm not going to go and miss out on my family with the cholent and the kugel sitting in the hospital till Motzei Shabbos. I don't want that. Now what about electricity on Shabbos, David? The chashmal, the chevre chashmal, right? How are you allowed to use electricity on Shabbos? A Jew is working for you on Shabbos. Avram, the Jew has to working for you on Shabbos. So they get around it by having non-Jewish personnel in the chashmal department on Shabbos, right? You have the non-Jewish worker. But let's say you can't get a non-Jewish worker. You can't get a non-Jewish worker because a Jew permitted to work on the chashmal department. Better to get a non-Jew day, but you can't get a non-Jew. What about a Jew? Rav Shlomo Zalman Paskin, what?
Is it in the hospital?
Oh, don't steal my thunder. Shirley, please. She's ahead of me. Can I hurry? Shirley, we go back a long time. To the Narola Rebbe, Bedford and Avenue U. Okay. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says that hospitals and homes with sick and old people need chashmal. Therefore, David, it's mutter to be mechal Shabbos with chashmal, because pekuach nefesh doiche kol haTorah kula. Once the chashmal is supplied because of pekuach nefesh, others may also use it. You hear the heter of Shlomo Zalman says?
My stove would get filled.
I know. You need hospital homes and breathing machines, right? And other type of machines, chashmal. So sick and old people in the hospital and homes need the chashmal. So since it's mutter be mechal Shabbos with the chashmal because of pekuach nefesh, says Rav Shlomo Zalman, once the chashmal is supplied because of pekuach nefesh, others may also use the chashmal. So those people working the chashmal, they have to realize, are they doing an avera? They're doing a mitzvah. They're saving people. The breathing machine, what's it called? The ventilator?
Yeah.
Without electricity, the guy's dead. So they're not being Mechal Shabbos Mikimya.
Right.
They're saving lives. It's a privilege. Reb Chaim Eliyahu, you're a doctor. You know it's a privilege. Isn't that incredible? Playing Zalman Auerbach. Yes?
What's the word after chashmal? It says mechal Shabbos with something.
A Shabbos clock? How do you allow to program a Shabbos clock on Friday that it should go on if it's a Jewish worker?
Right before that, right in the middle of the line.
Yeah, where?
It's mutter to be mechal Shabbos with something.
With chashmal.
What's the word after?
Because bekuach nefesh, once the chashmal is supplied because of bekuach nefesh, said the Shlomo Zalman, others may also use the chashmal. Like you program a Shabbos clock on Friday, because it's being used to save a life, so it's there anyway. So the person, what? The person himself can go back. What about a passenger? I don't know about a passenger.
No, you're not talking about a private car.
No, I'm talking about the ambulance, where he can drive the ambulance back. And he's permitted, based on the Rambam, Hilchos Shabbos, chapter 2, because otherwise he will not make the call next time. What? Can he take other people back in the ambulance? I hear what you're saying. That's a good question. Why is it different than chashmal? I don't know.
It's different than its axle.
I don't know. What? I don't know if it, what?
It's relative or something. I think the person.
But if a person, Loyalani, has a heart attack on Shabbos, right? His relative is allowed to go with him in the ambulance because that gives him chiyus.
Go there.
They go there, it gives him chiyus, right? It make him hang on, don't go. You know, I'm there with you, holding your hand. It's mamish pikuach nefesh. The question is whether he can go back with the ambulance driver.
I don't think ambulance drivers are any different than taxi.
Rabbi Yaakov, what do you say? Can he go back, the passenger? A private person.
No.
Can he go back with the ambulance? The relative coming back.
Relative.
A relative, yes.
Well, he's,
Somebody else is
You wait
someone
till
else is
the
driving.
Shabbos.
So v'chai b'hem, to save a life, is the most important mitzvah. There are only 3 sins that you have to die for. Avodah zarah, gili arayot, v'shichas damim. Idolatry, sexual immorality, and murder. For those sins, you have to give your life, because life wouldn't be worth living to commit those 3 sins. But for the rest of the Torah, eating on Yom Kippur, Mechal Shabbos, to save a life, even a suffix, even though, Sonia, it's not sure you'll save a life, but perhaps you're makel, and you do it. So like Rabbi Yaakov said, you're not makel on Shabbos, you're machmir what? I'll repeat this story. If I wouldn't have heard it from Rabbi Yosef Ber Soloveitchik, probably Yitzchak knows the story. I heard it on a tape. Joseph B. Soloveitchik said this on a tape. Otherwise, I wouldn't repeat it. Rabbi Yitzchak probably knows it. From his grandfather, Rab Chaim, Avram Berkowitz. You listening? There was a cholera epidemic in Brisk. Now, cholera in 1901 was deadly, you know. So the doctors told Rab Chaim Brisker that even the healthy people, like some ciphers, but this happened later, that even healthy people, if they fast in Yom Kippur, they're susceptible, the resistance is low, they're susceptible to get the cholera epidemic. Even though they don't have it now, but if you allow them to fast, Avram, then what? They're susceptible to get cholera. L'chaim Briska, I heard this from Rabbi Yosha on the tape. Yom Kippur morning, he gets up and he makes Kiddush. He makes Kiddush. Avram, you sitting? He makes Kiddush and he eats. Because he knows if he wouldn't do that, nobody would eat. And the doctor said it's safek pekuach nefesh, even though your congregation doesn't have cholera now. But if you let them fast, the resistance will be so low, perhaps they'll get cholera. So Chaim Briska, who didn't have cholera, Rarye, it's on a tape. A Yiddish, one of your early 50s tapes, amazing. Said, the Zayder of Chaim, gemacht Kiddush, Yom Kippur fafri, in morning, and he ate.
What's the Kiddush for?
Right? He made Kiddush and he ate. So people went up to him and said, Reb Chaim, what do you make on Yom Kippur for? Rabbi Yaakov Yiddish says, I'm not a makel on Yom Kippur, ich bin a machmir. I'm also a big machmir, surely. I tell my wife, machmir dus, machmir jens, machmir akava, machmir atei. Don't call me a makel. I'm a machmir, and something more important than Yom Kippur. What's that? Saving a life is more important than Yom Kippur. I'm a machmir. Rav Chaim Briska, the Zayda, Yosef Ber sat on the tape. I'm sure Rav Yitzchak knows this story. What?
Should be able to train or not?
What?
Give me a result.
What?
What's the result of the question?
I don't know. Is it really because of the Koch Nefesh?
No questions,
Well, Minister Katz says it is. Litzman says it isn't. So I don't know. But if it is, then
so it has to be.
okay.
You have to do it.
So they say use non-Jewish workers, right? Why do you have to use Jewish workers? Jewish non-Jewish railroad workers, right? So that's not an act of Hatzalah. Fixing the train, that's not like being a doctor or a soldier or electricity. You're not keeping anybody alive, right? So even Rav Moshe Shlomo Zalman says, try to have a non-Jewish worker. If it's not possible, then what? A Jew should do it. If he's a doctor or an emergency policeman, etc. But as far as working on the trains, you're not preventing. Are you preventing any bloodshed?
No.
What?
No, you're not preventing bloodshed, of course.
You're preventing bloodshed? I don't know.
Accidents are just bloodshed. of
Okay.
another kind.
Well, that's what Minister Chaim Katz, who's a Cohen. Minister Chaim, what does Katz stand for? Cohen Tzedek, Ziesel. That's what he says. Okay? Thank you very much.